Remember when you could make a movie with a bunch of the moment actors, have it critically panned, and still be able to make a sequel? Man, those were good times. Well, saddle up, because we're going back to the days of the Brat Pack, ready to go down in a blaze of glory as we try to prove to you that Young Guns 2 is not that bad. Welcome to this edition of It's Not That Bad, the podcast that looks for A grades in B movies. And we are, once again, going back to the wild, wild west. But joining us on our sojourn of discovery when it comes to Young Guns 2, brand new to the show, Dean from 904 Dad Life. Dean, welcome to the show for the first time. How you doing, man?
I'm doing good, Jason. How are you?
I am doing really, really good. Now, we went back and forth with a couple of different movie ideas, and Young Guns 2 is one that really kind of stuck out for me. When it comes to the Young Guns franchise, considering how big it is it surprising to you that not just this one, but both movies would actually qualify for this show?
Oh, that was shocking. Yeah, no, that was incredibly, I felt, too low.
Mm-hmm.
And I think you agree. That's why we're doing it. Like, just even the music soundtrack and both of them are awesome, but the storylines, and going back and rewatching them, because it had been a while. My mom made me watch those in the 90s when they were first coming out, and I just keep watching them, but rewatching them, it's like, no, these are awesome movies. That's why I keep watching them. For 20 years, 30 years. I think they just hit 30-year anniversary.
Yeah, they did actually. I guess that would have been about 32 years ago now, which is kind of funny too, because apparently last year in 2021, the writer John Fusco basically shared a mock poster for what would be a Young Guns 3, and then Emilio Estevez is like, "Yeah, it's in the works." If you go to IMDb, there is a page for, and I'm not even kidding you, Young Guns 3 alias Billy the Kid. It was supposed to come out August 3rd of this year. Still no word of it, but I'm curious. Are we ready for Young Guns 3 right now?
No, it's funny. Like, I'm thinking about it too, because I saw it and I had to fact check by calling my mom, who's, and she was like, no, there's no, she's Billy the Kid, Emilio fan, Charlie Sheen fan. She's like, there is no 3. I was like, are you sure? Because, she did live through the 60s. And I was like, Mom, but I wonder if it's one how movies are just coming out so fast, it's somewhere out there and we don't know yet. Like on Pluto or...
Yeah, I'm not quite sure.
I haven't done that much because I just, like I said, like you said, I just saw it on IMDb or the website, and it says it's out. I mean,
they have Lou Diamond Phillips, Christian Slater, and Emilio Estevez listed down as, I guess, ready to start. And I guess it's one of those things where, like, all three of them have said, yeah, we'd be in this, and there's no problem. And then IMDb basically gets a page. It's going to be like one of those weird things, I think, like Batgirl now, where it's like, yeah, the page exists. We'll never see it, but the page exists, which is...
And that could be better than Back to the Future 3, in my opinion.
It could be, because, I mean, like, let's be honest, technically speaking, Back to the Future 3 counts as a Western. But before we get too far into Young Guns 2 and this Western, it's time to take this Brat Pack trip and trailerize it. Outlaws, rebels, low-life characters on the run. Not your average night out in Los Angeles. The Brat Pack is back in Young Guns 2. Emilio Estevez returns as Billy the Kid, with more inappropriate laughter than Joaquin Phoenix doing stand-up in a nightclub. This Western Joker finds himself on the wrong end of the law. Only this time, the law is one of his own. Watch as the regulators try to stay ahead of the posse led by Pat Garrett by constantly going to places Garrett knows about. With more gunplay than a sleepover playing Duck Hunt, hopped up on Jolt Cola, it's Young Guns 2. Rated PG-13. Jolt Cola, that was such a 90s thing, which I may have drank way too much of it in my day. let's do a rundown of who's in this, okay? It stars Emilio Estevez, Kiefer Sutherland, Lou Diamond Phillips, Christian Slater, Balthazar Getty, Alan Ruck, Viggo Mortensen, and William Peterson taking over the role from Patrick Wayne as Pat Garrett. It was directed by Jeff Murphy, which is different because the first one was directed by Christopher Kane. Jeff Murphy is known for Free Jack and Under Siege 2.
Yes. Which is another great movie.
Oh, absolutely. And that's the thing. Like, the fact that Jeff Murphy went back to Emilio Estevez with Free Jack, it's like, okay, it's cool. Clearly they got along, which is kind of nice to see. This movie, we have to be honest here. If the first thing that comes to mind when you say Young Guns 2 isn't Blaze of Glory, you're doing something wrong. This film was basically everything in a bag of potato chips in 1990. It won for Best Original Song at the 2020 Awards and at the Golden Globe Awards. It was nominated for Best Original Song at the Oscars, and the Grammys lost both of those. For the Oscars, it lost to Sooner or Later from Dick Tracy, which, okay, I kind of get.
Yeah.
And the Grammys went to Under the Sea from The Little Mermaid. So, again, I kind of get it. It was all over the place. But that's a huge kudo for John Bon Jovi. It was nominated for Best Video from a Film at the MTV Video Music Awards that year. It lost as well, this time to Wicked Game by Chris Isaak from the movie Wild at Heart, which, yeah, I kind of get. Also, Balthazar Getty was nominated for Best Young Actor in a Supporting Role in a Motion Picture at the Young Artist Awards. He lost to the two kids, Joseph and Christian Cousins, who played Dominic in Kindergarten Cop, which, yeah, okay, again, I can see that one as well. So, I mean, lots of kudos for this one, but the critics were not having it. Over at Metacritic, it has a Metascore of 47. And over at Rotten Tomatoes, it has a audience score of 66%, which, okay, cool, fair enough. The audience loves it. The critics, however, 20% tomatometer. Yikes.
And now is that tomatometer? Is that millennials, or is that back in the day? Like, does it change?
That is literally, I mean, it can go up and down as, professional critics come back to Rotten Tomatoes and put their critic score in. But right now, as of recording this, we're sitting at 20%. But for comparison, when it comes to Young Guns 1, the Metascore is actually fairly the same, 50 in compared to 47. The audience score for Young Guns 1, 76% as opposed to 66. But the tomatometer, the tomatometer, a 41% in comparison to 20. And I'm kind of going to go out on a limb here and say I actually preferred Young Guns 2 to the first Young Guns. And I don't know, maybe it's the Bon Jovi song. I got no clue on that one. But I mean, for you, which is the better Young Guns? Young Guns 1 or Young Guns 2?
So I enjoy, I remember Young Gun 1 vividly, very vividly, like the beginning, the whole story. So I think Young Guns 1 is top for me. But now, as I'm a lot older, Young Guns 2 actually tells the more detailed story behind Young Guns 1. Mm-hmm. So it kind of like the pace is a little more slower. So now I like that because I like to follow along with the movie and learn more about the Billy the Kid and his relationship with the guy coming after him, the sheriff now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but, this is one of those things where when we on this show previously did the movie Mobsters, which also starred Christian Slater, as you're doing your research, you realize there's a lot of that movie that is pulled from actual real life, which on first watch you probably wouldn't. You'd sit there and say, oh, it's just a mobster story. No, it was pulled from real life. Here, going back through it, you're like, okay, there was actually quite a bit that was pulled from the stories of Billy the Kid and Doc Holliday and Arkansas Dave Rudabaugh. I can't hear that name now without hearing Christian Slater's like, don't you know about Arkansas Dave Rudabaugh? It's like, oh God, it's stuck in my head. It did well at the box office though. According to IMDb, this movie had a budget of about $20 million with a worldwide gross of 44. So doubling your budget, that's always a good sign. When it was released on the August 3rd, 1990 weekend, according to thenumbers.com, this film debuted at number 3 with a box office take of about $6 million. That's in behind the 4th week of Ghost and just behind the 2nd week of Presumed Innocent. There were a couple of other films that debuted and they weren't getting anywhere near. At number 7, debuting was Mo Better Blues, and number 8, DuckTales the movie, Treasure of the Lost Lamp. And if you hear someone say DuckTales and you don't go, woohoo, you are doing things completely wrong. But let's get to the breakdown of here. Let's start with...
Dude, my wife's parents were the DuckTale parents, and my parents were the regulators.
Oh, God. And the funny thing is now when you realize that the voice of Scrooge McDuck is Doctor Who himself, David Tennant, right? I'm like, okay, we're good with DuckTales now. We're good. But
I told him that's what got my son to watch it. I was like, come on, let's watch DuckTales. He was like, I don't want. I was like, well, guess what? And he's like, yeah, he's fact checking everything. He's 9 going on 19.
Gotcha. See, it's funny because you can sit there and say Ebenezer Scrooge is now Doctor Who. Okay. But when you sit there and say, yes, Ebenezer Scrooge is now Kilgrave from Jessica Jones, and if you hear his voice, you'll do exactly as he says, that makes DuckTales a little bit scarier. But let's get to the breakdown of Young Guns 2, and we have to start with Billy the Kid himself, Emilio Estevez. Second go around for this guy in this character, and I gotta say, right off the bat, the fact that, he's in the old man makeup and, kind of narrating the story, I really liked this aspect of Young Guns 2. So Emilio Estevez for you in this film.
Yeah, exactly what you just said. I love the raspy, Emilio's voice in that raspy old man, and then just tell him the story. And I if you didn't know, I think the movie was actually that Young Guns 2 was kind of written by the guy Brushy Billy Roberts. Have you heard about him?
Mm-hmm.
Who claimed to be Billy the Kid in 1950. So I learned that was the baseline of Long That. So I wondered, I think Emilio kind of took that role of that run down old. I loved it. You put it, you nailed it right on it.
Yeah, but even when he's we're back to young Billy and they're on the run from Pat Garrett, you can see the almost that duality in Billy the Kid where he's joking around a lot, he's laughing sometimes inappropriately, but he's laughing. But you can.
They're not bad. They're not bad guys. They're regulating for. They're kind of like a Robin Hood per se. They're trying to get their land back. That's all it is. They're regulating for the land for the people around them. So they're killing people. That's bad. But like you said, they're laughing, joking around, having a good time.
But you can see the switch almost flip when it's time for Billy to knuckle down and get shooten or be killed kind of thing. And you can visibly see that switch in the thought process. There's the, okay, I'm going to laugh my way through this. And then it's like, okay, now people are going to die. And
you really will make you famous.
Yeah, absolutely. Right. Which
right there, the intensity in the eyes, how the film director did awesome. Right there, the eyes of the guy, going for his gun, all right.
There was a lot of really good tension and almost internal acting that was allowed to be shown off on this one. A big credit to Jeff Murphy on that. And I mean, let's be honest. I mean, the character of Billy the Kid himself is just, as an actor, you have to think this is a juicy role to kind of jump into. Yeah,
and Emilio, he's such a great actor. I mean, he himself, Charlie Sheen, his father, awesome actors, but him himself can just go, like you said, he can be very funny, but his sense of humor, I don't know if it's that smirk that he has. It's just that he can be assertively funny, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't even have to try. It's I don't know. My brother did that with girls in high school. You just come in the room, say something. You're genuinely funny just because how you are, you know.
But I think it's a different way of, you know, what Charlie Sheen would do. Of course, the two of them being brothers and whatnot, and you saw that in the first Young Guns because both of them were in that one. Obviously, Charlie Sheen would not make it to the sequel, but I mean, you know,
And I wonder if that was like a jealousy thing because there was better interaction between Emilio and the other character in part two than one, I think.
Mm-hmm. I mean, you could definitely see the camaraderie, especially amongst the top three between him, Sutherland, and Lou Diamond Phillips. And when you read about some of the pranks that Estevez was pulling on set, it's like, okay, they were having a good time. They were.
Yeah.
Speaking of the top three, Kiefer Sutherland as Doc Holliday. I mean, here's a guy who's, you know, doing his best to step away from, you know, the regulator life to try and lead a normal life, always been the more educated of the group kind of thing. And there's just that tearing of emotion, right? This is the life I wanted to lead and I want to walk away from all this, but to the same token as well, these are basically my brothers that are on the run right now. That's got to be a tough call.
He's my favorite character out of the whole, you know, the whole movie, the whole thing. Doc, him, the character, he's awesome. He exactly what you said. You know, again, I don't think if you look at it, they're really not bad guys. They're just mad. But Doc, like you said, yeah, he's very intelligent. And then in this movie, he starts killing. I don't think he killed much in part one. And in part two, he pulls out and. When Billy, you know, puts down his gun, when I talk about that scene, "Who Will Make You Famous," he's actually the one that kills him and then throws the gun down, you know. And then at the very end, he has the good gunfight at the end that makes him. I mean, like you said, it's just the camaraderie that's there is just amazing.
It is interesting too. And by the way, dear listeners, we are going to spoil the crap out of this, but we are 32 years after this film came out. So if you have not seen Young Guns 2 by now, that's on you. That's not on us. But the thing with Kiefer Sutherland is that because of the connection and you can tell there's an internal struggle within Doc and, you know, in staying by Billy's side, even though like that's, you know, that's a bond right there. That's a brotherhood. So I think it's really Kiefer Sutherland, it's Doc Holliday's death that really kind of, you know, for lack of a better term, breaks Billy the Kid, because it's after that shootout where Doc dies and, you know, Chavez gets shot to a point where basically he's dead. Yeah. Exactly, where it basically splits the regulators up, and it's like that, not Balthazar Getty's death. You know, because that kind of weighed on him a little bit, but it's Doc. It's realizing that, yeah, his brother has now, you know, his quote unquote brother has now been killed by the posse that's being led by their former teammate. Like that I think is the weight. And I think it's because of Kiefer Sutherland's performance as Doc Holliday that makes us, the viewer, realize this is the straw of, you know, that broke the camel's back, not necessarily Balthazar Getty's death.
Yeah, and right before that shootout too, you know, I felt there was a scene where he's like, they want Billy the Kid, He's like, you are Billy the Kid, we're all Billy the Kid. So like, yeah, it's like Billy at one point put all the tension on him, and at the end there, right before he's about to go into that gunsling, I think maybe he felt a little, you know, maybe of course it's a movie. We don't know what they're filming. We only think what the director wanted us to feel. But it's like, okay, you know what? I appreciate you sticking by my side. Mm-hmm. And like, I feel, you know, they really wanted Billy the Kid. They didn't want the rest of them. Mm-hmm. They wanted Billy, and like you said, they stood by his side, and they started, like you said, that broke him right there, taking Doc down.
It's also a fascinating dynamic between the two, and this is played well by both Emilio Estevez and Kiefer Sutherland, is that Doc Holliday really is the antithesis to Billy the Kid, but in that, you know, being almost like the opposite mindset of him, it's almost like, you know, Billy is to Doc, or at least Billy fills the need or the void that Doc needs filled, to the same token as well as Doc is the missing part of Billy. So the two of them together, like, can go through anything, even though they know.
my wife will hate that I say this. It's almost like myself as a Gemini. We got twin personalities. So Doc is Billy the Kid's twin, the good side, and Doc, vice versa.
Oh, absolutely. But it's what Billy the Kid needs. He needs that voice of reason. Everyone needs that voice of reason. That little devil's advocate. But then it's also to the same token where it's like Doc is, like, that's a really bad idea. Let's go.
Slow down.
But then you've got the Trinity part of this trio here, and that's Chavez is played by Lou Diamond Phillips. Let's be honest here. Late 80s, early 90s, Lou Diamond Phillips could do no wrong. Playing Chavez in the Young Guns duology, playing Richie Valens in La Bamba. Like, he was like literally like, you put him in something, he's going to kill it. Even still, like, he has been in some bad movies, and I'm looking at, and I think it was like Metal Tornado or something like that he played with Nicole DeBoer. But even then, I'm like, I still really enjoy Lou Diamond Phillips in this, which is great. But there's just such a stoicness in Chavez as well. Like, you could see how the three of them really complement each other.
They really do. Yes, I don't know if it's because maybe they were so young and just like wanting, they're all on top of their game, and I love Young Guns 1, 2, anything that goes 1, 2. When you get to that 3, that's where it starts getting weird with movies for me. So I kind of stopped that, and I think there it's like they were just both in it. They are all three of them were just, who's the better of the three of us? Who's going to be on the biggest screen? Mm-hmm. We're all on the big screen right now, but who's going to keep going? It's kind of how,
And that's the thing, when you take a look at an ensemble cast like that, and let's be honest, right? 1990, you've got, Estevez, Sutherland, Lou Diamond Phillips, Christian Slater, like, all really at the top of their games. It's like, who's really going to stand out? And I think Lou Diamond Phelps was more of a subtle play, whereas you have these very big personalities. Lou Diamond Phillips comes in and is able to level the playing field, but very quietly and very methodically.
And that sometimes messes up their career. It doesn't. They don't go out and voice. It just kind of puts them. All right, I remember him from this years ago. Instead of, I can name Emilio with Mighty Ducks. Young Guns. There's you can go on and on with Emilio, Charlie Sheen. You can go on and on and on and on. But they're loud. They were loud. They were loud in the beginning. They had their dad too. And he, that Chavez, he just stayed kind of quiet. And then they don't have enough confidence sometimes. And then you got those actors that have way too much confidence, and they're the ones that really make it.
I think the thing with Lou Diamond Phillips is he comes in, very much as a character actor. Comes in like, he will fit any role you put him into, which is why he still has a very long acting career today. Same thing with Kiefer Sutherland, right? Like, the fact that 24 was there, and then there was Designated Survivor. Like, Sutherland is still, lead role gold kind of thing. But then you got Christian Slater, who of course is himself is still, as big as he is. But I mean, let's be honest, when it comes to Arkansas Dave Rudabaugh, as I'm watching this, I'm like, oh my God, he's the Ant-Man of the group. I have that flashback of that scene from Avengers Endgame. It's like, hey, do you want a picture with Ant-Man? And it's like, this is basically what Arkansas Dave Rudabaugh is. He's like, don't you know who I am? What? How do you not know Arkansas Dave Rudabaugh? It's like, yep, you are the Ant-Man of the group.
That's right. Yeah, I mean, he gets shouts. He gets shot up. Hell, hey, Bob, and he gets shot up with dimes, if I'm not mistaken.
No, it was the dimes were basically in the shotgun that the guy holding Billy the Kid had. But I mean, it's when you think about Christian Slater at that time, this is perfect casting for Arkansas Dave Rudabaugh's character, because if you think about Christian Slater in Pump Up the Volume and in Heathers and movies around that time, it's like, yes, perfect. Like, let him be the ego of the group. And which is interesting because it's a contrasting ego to Billy the Kid. Billy the Kid doesn't need people to know who his name is. He knows everyone knows who his name is. Arkansas Dave Rudabaugh is looking at Billy the Kid like, this is what I'm supposed to be. But he's still coming to that realization of just because you ride with greatness doesn't make you great by default. And
exactly.
What's
prove yourself.
Yeah. But you also see a little bit of that. Why is no one following? Why am I not at Billy the Kid status? It's subtle, but again, it's something that Christian Slater really brings to that character, which makes him so memorable, as opposed to just a discount Will Scarlet, if you will, if you're making Robin Hood comparisons.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. Like he just can't beat Emilio's role in that character, Billy. I mean, Christian Slater, like you're saying, wanting to just not getting the fact of why am I not? What am I doing wrong? What am I doing wrong? And that's what it is. You're trying too hard. He was trying too hard.
And the funny thing is, like, you could almost see, like, you take the same, not the same group of characters, because obviously it's a Western, right? But the same personality types, and put them into, like a modern day type story. And yeah, he's going to be the guy that, thinks that just because he works for a company makes him as important as the CEO. That's kind of like the Arkansas Dave Rudabaugh mentality, until of course it eventually killed him in real life by saying, like, don't you know who I am? It's like, oh no, we've heard of you. Now we're going to behead you. Which is,
and that, yeah, I mean, go work for a city or county job and think you're part of the good old boy system, and just wait, and you'll see you're not really part of a good old boy system unless you've been in that town for your whole life.
Arkansas
not
Dave
speaking,
Rudabaugh.
Not speaking from experience or anything.
Arkansas Dave Rudabaugh, the king of the data entry pool. No, but I mean, it's the fact that Arkansas Dave Rudabaugh is actually listed as, a potential character in a Young Guns 3 movie would be really weird, because of course we know at the end of the film, they talk about how he made it to Mexico, and then he was shortly thereafter killed because they wanted to send a message to other outlaws thinking of crossing the border that they don't want their kind here. Which I had to laugh seeing that sign. It's like, scum will not be tolerated. And so, scum, what's that mean? Politicians, bankers. I'm like, oh my God, that quote would still work even today. Oh
yeah.
Balthazar Getty. This is an interesting one, because when we first meet Balthazar Getty in this film, I'm like, oh dear God, they're dragging a kid along and someone teach him how to clap because he doesn't know how to clap in this. No one claps like that. Go ahead, watch that clapping scene. You'd be like, what is he doing? He's mashing his hands together like he's trying to, knead the dough.
They brought Gilbert Grape into the movie.
Oh God, that is literally that is the perfect comparison. But
and they gave him a knife too. Let's flip this knife around. Okay.
But there is something about his performance in this where I'm just like, okay, his innocence, his naivety, like he's somehow following the person that he idolizes from a comic book. It would be like if someone got to do Ride Along with Batman at this point.
Yes. Perfect.
Yeah, and when he does eventually get shot, in actually trying to help Billy the Kid, he had a way of basically turning this character from annoying sidekick to, oh my God, like I actually kind of feel when he gets shot and killed. And that's a tribute to Balthazar Getty. It's no wonder that he was nominated for an award for this performance. And, kudos to him for making my thought process on his character change throughout the movie.
Yeah, no, he did it very well. Like you said, like in the beginning, it was just like, what the heck is this? All right, they're trying to make Billy make this nice kid. This isn't Mighty Ducks. But yeah, right there, the scene where he goes, and that was very heartfelt right there.
Mm-hmm. It's kind of like with that Star Wars series, The Bad Batch. I'm like, okay, we got these cool badass clones. They're not following Order 66, and they're bringing a kid along with them. Madcap adventures will ensue. But for Balthazar Getty, yeah,
I'll be that one guy that would be, don't you dare compare Star Wars to Young Guns.
But you know what though?
We're talking regulators, not nerds with glasses. Come on. I'm joking.
Both were rebels. Both were rebels.
I'm totally kidding.
Luke Skywalker as Billy the Kid. No, which actually I could actually see Mark Hamill playing this role fairly well.
Right? Yeah.
I mean,
well, they've been doing movies where they go back. So instead of like a Billy, Young Guns 3, what about like how young, Billy the Kid, how it got started, like before coming in? Because I think, part was like sitting in there eating, sitting on the ground, or it could be this one too. I love both of them so much. My mom has to correct me. Like I said, she's my movie fact checker. But I think that would be an interesting movie. I think that would almost be better than a part 3.
You know what? I mean, the downside is I don't know if you could put an Emilio Estevez in a younger Billy the Kid movie, but I'm sure there would be enough people lining up to act in that role.
Oh, yeah.
Let's talk about Pat Garrett here. It's played by William Peterson. First of all, William Peterson, one of the main reasons why I used to watch CSI back in the day, his episodes of CSI were the best ones out there, period, bar none. And stepping into the role that someone else has already played is not necessarily always easy, but kind of like how Don Cheadle turned Rhodey, James Rhodes, in Iron Man, and basically improved upon the role of War Machine. William Peterson just absolutely killed it as Pat Garrett, because there's so much more on-screen introspection that you see in Pat Garrett, and the fact that he's chasing them down, he's walking away from the gang kind of thing, and then all of a sudden there's that twist at the end. It's like, I shot everything but you, and you still wouldn't go away. Like, oh my God, like that turn in Young Guns 2, it's like, this made sense, and it's not like they spoiled it at all. Like, it was really effective acting by William Peterson.
Yeah, I agree. No, he did a great job, and like you said, it's hard to come in and fill in a role that that's been done great, but that just he did a really good job, and I just that's all. Yeah. Mm-hmm. All my notes that I have here, you're hitting them all right on the nail. It's literally, you're like my brother, as if, because I think I mentioned my brother's name is Jason. Then we watched movies together, and you're hitting everything right on the nail.
But the thing with, I mean, like here is, it's an interesting aspect to the story. And as much as in real life, Billy the Kid and Pat Garrett weren't as close as they were portrayed in Young Guns 2 at first, it does still lend a very interesting side to the story. And that's the beauty part about this. Like, you can go and start to do a little bit of research and realize that, wow, a young Hollywood, cowboy movie or outlaw movie isn't as far removed from reality as you would expect it to be. It's like watching a movie based on a book, then going back and reading the book and saying, wow, okay, so they really didn't deviate too much from this, as opposed to when Hollywood usually butchers a book. This didn't butcher history as much as one might think, especially for a sequel that's clearly built on on the backs of young Hollywood.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And the final scene too, of like, him shooting Billy the Kid, that leads this for the part 3, because does he really shoot him or not? Mm-hmm. It's almost like Point Break, where he lets Bodhi go into that wave. Like, does Bodhi esophagus really die? I don't know. So
long as we don't get Point Break 2. I know we had the reboot. Didn't need
I know, right?
Did not need the reboot. No one needs that reboot. Nope. Alan Ruck as Henry French. It's interesting because you've got Balthazar Getty joining the group because he idolizes Billy the Kid and wants more for his life. You had Arkansas Dave Rudabaugh join the group basically, because he's so full of himself, he thinks that by riding with the Kid, he is as big as the Kid. But Henry French, as played by Alan Ruck, here's a guy who actually has a beef with the people that the regulators would stand up against. He lost his farm. He lost his everything. He's out, to get his pound of flesh from the people who took it from him. And then you see that the realization is like, I am in way over my head, and if I make it out of this alive, I'm never, going back to this. Like, the fact that it's him that's there with Chavez as Chavez realizes that he's, like there's no coming back from this. Loved the turn that Alan Ruck had with this.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's just the whole thing. The whole thing is the land, and it's nobody wants to kill anybody, but it's at some point they realize they got to do something, and it's these regulators that are actually talking these guys into it. None of them, they don't like them, but then they finally come around and realize they are. It's what you got to do.
Yeah, it's almost like you have the man with the ego, the man with the passion, and the man with the actual reason for doing what they're doing, in the three that have joined them, and that's a kudos to Alan Ruck. I mean, like again, like we're talking the least known name of the main six of the regulators, because Pat Garrett is chasing them. And for him to be able to stand out in a non-stand-outish way, like he's not loud, he's not trying to overact and overshadow everyone, but his story, his arc, actually feels, it makes sense. He's angry. He let his anger get him to this point. And then all of a sudden he realizes where his anger has brought him to. It just makes Henry French a much more complex character than just, ride along with the boys.
Yeah. And that's what I think that's what was great about part 2 is it slowed it down for people to catch those type of characters. They gave him, the character more time to be looked at. His thought, like you're saying, his whole thought process had to change, and it's hard to do that. It's hard to do that now in real life, and to see these people have to go through the same thing back in the Western times is pretty cool, I think. Off reference, I was talking to my brother's friend who is 26 years old, and I said, yeah, I'm going to be doing this podcast on Young Guns too, and she goes, oh, is that a Western, like Brokeback Mountain?
That is not a Western like Brokeback Mountain in any stretch of the conversation here.
As you can't be in the family, I'm sorry. Like, I know I was laughing so hard, but she just had never seen the movie, and I felt so bad. But that's just like kids these days are not seeing real Western. They're seeing Yellowstone and all that, but like, I'm just lucky that I got to enjoy these movies.
The interesting thing too is that the tonality of modern westerns has changed quite a bit, and you have these stories of more character studies of people in the West as opposed to, I mean, let's call this what it is. Young Guns 2 is a popcorn flick. It was, it happens to be, inspired by and based on real stories of real outlaws, but it's a popcorn flick at best. I mean, this was never going to be an Oscar-winning film. It's designed to put butts in seats in the theater and bring the people out and have a good time. And the thing is, Brokeback Mountain is there to make you think. And to make you see a different side of cowboy western type movies. Young Guns 2 is to give you a good time for an hour and a half or 2 hours there, sell a lot of popcorn and make you enjoy the ride along the way. And I think it really kind of, it did exactly what it was supposed to do.
Yep. I think exactly. Like Young Guns 1 was a lot of action, a lot more action, I think, than part 2. And then that's why I think part 2 is exactly what you said. Just sit there, eat your popcorn, and watch a good flick. Watch and enjoy it. Actually learn the baseline.
Mm-hmm. Like it is true. This is one of those rare sequels based on a movie that did surprisingly well at the box office. And Young Guns did. It did very well at the box office. Young Guns 2 made its money back. But I think it's fair to say that regardless of what the critics think, Young Guns 2 is equal to or better than the sequel. That's rare when you think about, a movie that, let's be honest, the motivation is to sell movie tickets. It did what it needed to do and then some. Young Guns 2 is better than it probably has any right to be.
Yeah. And if I'm not mistaken, it came out like the same week of Ghost.
It came out 3 weeks after Ghost, actually. But
3
again,
weeks after Ghost, yeah. So it's like right around the same times there was a couple good movies with and I myself am a huge Patrick Swayze fan. So those numbers change, but like you said, it did really good. I'm just still surprised with it when I started talking to you and looking at those critic numbers. It was just I'm still in shock with it.
Now, I do wonder, and we need to put this out on Front Street here. We need to address the John Bon Jovi sized elephant in the room, in that Blaze of Glory is one of those rare songs that's written for a movie where I think the song itself surpasses the movie, right? And you think about I Will Always Love You from The Bodyguard. I mean,
did not just talk about my Whitney, my girl.
Yeah,
that song Bodyguard, that movie. That's another one like a classic. That like you said, that song almost is the movie itself.
Yeah. Oh, it absolutely is. The longevity of the song surpasses the movie, and I think the Blaze of Glory actually has accomplished that as well, where it's like, you listen to any, rock radio station, or even like, oldies, I hate to say oldies radio station, but at least, more classic rock radio station, they're still going to play Blaze of Glory ad nauseum. It's, the thing with Titanic, getting to songs that, run the risk of surpassing.
And I'm looking at it, and it's an almost 6-minute song, and my wife hates long songs, and I love long songs. Mm-hmm. And I was re-listening to it, and it's 6 minutes of not really repeating itself. The chorus lines, of course, but it's like like you said, it is how it's like, hey, I'm gonna go and write a song for a movie. He did his job.
Yeah. I mean, considering that, the filmmakers came to him and said, well, we want to use Wanted Dead or Alive. And Bon Jovi's like, yeah, no, you know what? That song's not really about a Western, but, go give me a few minutes and I'll go write you a song. And this is what he comes out with. And arguably it's, one of the most iconic, and I recognize it's, it's a solo outing, but this is one of the most iconic songs that he has written. But the thing is, when you think about Bon Jovi at the time, Bon Jovi was all over the place, right? Like this is, this is like, New Jersey era Bon Jovi, with You Give Love not You Give Love a Bad Name, but Bad Medicine era and stuff like that. Like this is peak Bon Jovi, and then for him to come out, with a solo song, basically the solo soundtrack, if you will, like. But I wonder if that has any pushback, because it was, let's be honest. Some critics crap on a movie just to be, for lack of a better term, counterculture. The movie itself is good. The song itself is good, but the song overplayed might make you sit there and go, I don't want to hear that song over and over and over again.
Yeah. And that happened. And nowadays that's how things work. Back then, it's like, okay, like I just said, it's an almost 6-minute song. I love long music, but I don't want to hear a 6-minute song 5 times a day.
Yeah, no. But it does harken back to a time when, people wrote songs specifically for movies and they became huge. Like I really, truly, and honestly think that My Heart Will Go On from Titanic is the last time someone made a song for a movie that became that huge, that successful. Titanic was a huge box office success, but yeah, like that song itself too was just so over the moon. Twitter has spoken. Speaking of musicians, Sean Faust has chimed in with Young Guns 2 is a favorite of mine. Ignore the rock drums. Silvestri's score is great. The story is great. The pacing is great. Enough said. And I kind of agree. Like, as a package deal, with the music and the acting and the actors in the roles and all that, Young Guns 2 really is a complete film for what it's supposed to be, a popcorn Western.
It is all of it, yeah. I think that's why we're talking here. I don't know how it's so low there where, just 1 and 2. I could sit down and watch 1 and then not hesitate to put part 2 on, and I'm not a binge watcher really, and it's because I want to know the rest of the story.
Okay,
it's hard to do that. It's hard to do that with sequels.
Honest question: if Young Guns 3 comes out with Arkansas Dave Rudabaugh, with Billy the Kid, with Chavez. Like, are you afraid that it's too late?
No, Amelia doesn't really age, so they'd have, like, it depends on how they're going to go with it. Like, again, I hate Back to the Future 3. I cannot deal that Western scene, or just not even that it's a Western, just the way that Back to the Future is. It's nothing compared to the other two, in my opinion. If they could come out good with him, meeting back up with the guy chasing him, his buddy Pat, I think that could make it work. But would I pay to see it in theaters? No. Would I wait and see it on Netflix? Of course.
Only time will tell if we do get our Young Guns 3. But Dean, it is time. It is time to put it all on the line and name who you think is the MVP of Young Guns 2.
Oh, Doc.
Okay. Kiefer Sutherland. Why is he your MVP?
Kiefer Sutherland. I would go with, like we said, like his persona in the movie all around is how I think I would be. I would, by all means, I am not the smartest man in my group of friends, but I did have the most knowledgeable of how to keep us safe in the things we were doing. And I didn't want to cause any trouble, but if I had to, I would. If I had to have somebody's back and step in to, what I mean by stepping in, if I had to step in and take a punch or punch somebody for a friend, I'd do it. And then I'd cry after about it and help the guy up and apologize. And I feel like that's what Doc would do.
Okay, I have to admit, for me, I've always been a proponent that, the better the villain, the better the movie. And with William Peterson as Pat Garrett, it's interesting because he plays the sort of quote unquote villain. He definitely plays the antagonist to Billy the Kid and why they're kind of on the run, but it's a very complex, very, very dual role, and I think William Peterson absolutely killed it. So for me, William Peterson is the absolute MVP of Young Guns 2. Love to know what you guys think. Hit us up on Twitter at NotThatBadcast. Let me know who you think the MVP of Young Guns 2 is. Dean, thank you so much for this. Why don't you take a second, tell us a little bit about 904 Dad Life.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Yeah, no, 904 Dad Life is a brand that I've started to pretty much just for dads to communicate with each other, give each other ideas on how to pretty much keep your patience with your kids. Positivities, I'm an adrenaline junkie. I love having fun, but you have to be safe doing it. And 904 Dad Life really is just about getting dads to open up and knowing to drop the traditional alpha role, because kids these days don't handle the getting yelled at like we used to. We used to be regulated. I cannot regulate my kids these days like we were. And that's what it's about. It works. You catch more bees with honey, and that's kind of what 904 Dad Life is about, to try to get dads to get on that same wavelength a little bit. But it's also just like, I want to help dads get going. It's hard when you're a dad, you have kids, it slows you down. Anybody has an idea, contact 904dadlife.com, go to 904dadlife at gmail, and just, even if you're having a bad day, I can find somebody to make you feel better. And that's all 904 Dad Life is about. Smiles for miles is a big thing that me and my wife say. And I've been saying that for years. And she's like, what is that? And I'm like, it kind of goes with, it is what it is. Smiles for miles, just stuff is going to happen and you just got to keep smiling. And that's what 904 Dad Life's about.
Dean, that's awesome. Thank you so much for taking the time, coming on the show, talking about Young Guns 2. I don't need a reason to watch this movie again, but it was nice to kind of go down that road. Clearly, my favorite of the Young Guns movies. So remember, you can find Dean on Twitter at 904dadlife, and then his website 904dadlife.com. Thank you, Dean, so much. And then to our listeners, thank you for listening to this episode of It's Not That Bad. Now, you guys know the drill. If you think there's a movie that is unfairly maligned or is so bad that there is no way in hell that we can find anything good to say about it, hit me up on Twitter at NotThatBadCast. We will watch it, we will dissect it, and we will find the good things to say, because we are looking for those A grades in B movies. Dean, once again, thank you so much. To our listeners, thank you. Until next time, everyone, take care.
Hey folks, Stefan Shirazi and Renee Richardson here from the Metallica Report.
And we are proud members of the Pantheon podcast family, where the best of music and podcasts unite.
We've got something pretty cool for you. We're giving away an exclusive Metallica merch package worth over $250.
That's a whole lot of Scary Guys, Skulls, M72, and other sought-after Metallica swag. And we've made it easy for you to win. Follow and share the Metallica Report, and you're in the game. Go to pantheonpodcast.com/Metallica, enter your email, and hit that button to be entered to win.
And just like that, you're eligible for our monthly exclusive Metallica merch package.
And guess what, rockers? You can enter every month, so just do it. And while we love our global brothers and sisters, the lawyers won't let us ship outside the U.S.